So I have 10 o'clock on my time. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 10 a.m. on November 10th. And I'd like to acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates within the territory of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nations. And a notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. Can I please have an adoption of the agenda?
Move adoption.
Seconder? Councillor Law? Okay. Any errors or omissions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, and can I please have an adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting held October 27th, 2020?
Move adoption.
Second.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, do we have any public comments?
Through the mayor, one person has signed up. Eileen Floody is signed up for item 7.2, correspondence regarding the proposed Tofino library. So I will just promote Eileen to speak for 2 minutes. Go ahead, Eileen.
Okay, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Okay, thanks for taking input from me again. I just wanted to once again point out the trees and shrubs and things at Katie Monk's garden that are of great value to many of us. There's large cedars, there's a West Coast maple, there's a magnolia, Chilean lantern tree, and another rare evergreen whose name I haven't been able to discover. Also, there are a number of people in town who are willing to be basically sort of friends of Katie Monk's garden and willing to keep the garden up to in good condition and look after it. I know that other people other than the ones that are listed in the agenda today are also sending letters about the garden and about the location of the library. I realize that council needs to make some difficult decisions many times, and we always appreciate the amount of community input that you accept. One final point on the library, the Sayward Library, I looked up some of its features. Not sure the population is Sayward, but the new Sayward Library, I understand, only has one public access computer. So it's actually 2,100 square feet. It's fairly small in some ways. The two public computers at Tofino, when they were available to people, were used like all the time. And when there was non-resident temporary workers and things, there was a lineup. There was a waiting list to use those computers. So I think it's important to keep in mind that we're a different community, and I'm not sure how much that's taken into account in providing services to the community. So anyway, that's what I have to say, and I hope you are able to discuss further about the library and Katie Monk's garden. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. And now I'll move on to the mayor's report. So I have one item, and that is presenting the Volunteer Recognition Award. So I'd like to say that I feel greatly honored to be acting mayor this month and get to be the one to present this Volunteer Recognition Award. The Saltwater Classic has been my favorite event to volunteer in, and I believe it has been such an incredible blessing to our community. While Brendan Morrison may only be a part-time resident in Tofino, he wholly understands the needs of our community and has selflessly used his abilities and his influences, combined with one of his passions, to create an event that benefits so many parts of our community. And to read what his nominator wrote, in its 10th year, the Tofino Saltwater Classic Fishing Derby and Auction was created by Brendan Morrison as a fundraiser for Tofino community initiatives. Beneficiaries include the Wickaninnish School, Tofino Salmon Enhancement Society, Tofino Parks and Recreation Youth Program, Tofino Recreation Commission, Kids Access Fund, Tofino Hospital Foundation and Physical Therapy Departments, the Tofino Community Food Initiative, the West Coast Multiplex Society, the Tofino Volunteer Fire Department, the Rain Coast Education Society, the Tofino Tla-o-qui-aht Heritage Society, St. Francis of Assisi Family Program, Cedar Coastal Field Station, the Community Children's Center, Strawberry Island Research, Surf Raider Foundation, the West Coast Community Resources, the PAC Health Food and Literacy Programs, and of course, the Wickaninnish Community School Society. So it's really benefited a lot of our community. The former NHL player Brendan Morrison announced on July 2019 that the recent Tofino Saltwater Classic Fish and Derby fundraiser event, held for the 10th consecutive year in Tofino, raised more than $75,000 to bring the total amount raised for the local community initiatives since the event's inception to more than $575,000. So Brendan, congratulations, and thank you for all that you do to our community. Unfortunately, we can't present you this award in person, but you will receive a framed certificate and a nameplate on the wall near the village green playground. And it feels weird to present this to a blank screen.
Through the mayor, typically we do have the recipient say a few words if they'd like to, but I can't tell which one of the Linda K's might be Brendan Morrison. So I'm going to allow each of the people who are listed as Linda K in the participants pane to speak. And if one of them is Brendan Morrison, I think this would be a nice time if he'd like to say anything at all. So please bear with me.
Hi there, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Brendan.
Hi there. Wow, geez, this is, Linda gave me a heads up here a couple of days ago about the meeting this morning, and didn't completely fill me in on what was happening, but just said that you guys would like me to be a part of the meeting for a special award. And this is very, very humbling and very unexpected. I don't see this as a personal award at all. It is a total team effort. You know, this kind of came to fruition here back in 2009, as Britt mentioned, but the idea really started with the former principal at the Acadish Community School, Brad Dussault. And we talked about this even as far back as 2007, 2008, about, you know, trying to come up with some type of event that could raise money to benefit the community and I guess more to that point, kind of the grassroots programs of the community and kind of the leaders of the future. So the Derby rolled out in 2009, and I believe the first year we had 62 participants, and we thought that was a huge success. We were thrilled, and it's grown over the years, and we sell out every year now at a capacity of about 125. But it's been amazing, really. And again, this doesn't happen without a great team. We mentioned Linda Kay, who's been on board since day one. Sarah Stosky has been on board since day one. Shauna Gardam played an integral role early on in the development of the Derby. Steve Ray has been another huge contributor, and so many others. Locally, the community has stepped up tremendously. Local businesses with donations to the event, volunteers with their time, and participants, not only locals, but others from across BC and other parts of Canada that have come and contributed to the event. So I wanted to say, again, guys, very, very humbled by this. You know, it's a team award. It's not an individual award, and events like this don't happen without contributions from many people. So I'll accept this award on behalf of everybody who has contributed in some fashion to the Tofino Saltwater Classic since its inception. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon. I just lost my ear.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. So after that, I guess we'll move on to delegations.
Thank you. We have one delegation from Ursula Bank, and Ursula, I'm going to promote you to a panelist so that you can share your screen with council, and you'll have 10 minutes to present.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. So I'm here to present on behalf of the West Coast Local Labor Market Indicator project. This project has actually been in the works for many, many years, but it's coming up to surface since the onset of the pandemic. I represent the Island Work Transitions Inc., who are doing business as the Alberni Valley Employment Center. We've been serving the West Coast communities, Tofino and Ucluelet, for many years, working with employers and job seekers, and working through all the supply-demand issues regarding workforce. Joined the recovery team for District of Tofino and realized that since the pandemic, the issue of supply and demand regarding the workforce has come to surface. And this is not for one sector, it's for all sectors. So we gathered after the completion of the Recovery Task Force mandate, we gathered together people who were on the task force, but also people in the region. In Ucluelet, we have letters of support now from District of Ucluelet, the Ucluelet Chamber of Commerce, and the Tla-o-qui-aht Biosphere Trust, and the Tofino Long Beach Chamber of Commerce. We have representatives up to, I believe it's 11 people on our advisory committee. And so I've put the content of this presentation into my correspondence to Mayor and Council dated October 15th. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Basically, what this is responding to a supply-demand question. The data that we have access to is not always reliable and is quite outdated. And for us to quickly respond in an effective and efficient manner to assist employers and job seekers, we need local labor market indicators. And so the information project started. This is the beginning of what I saw back in 2019 when I attended the Sustainable Tourism Workshop as a stakeholder. I mentioned that there is a need to look at workforce planning on a regional basis, north and south of this peninsula, on a 10-year basis, to start analyzing the data, gathering the data, analyzing it, and continuing to analyze it. So we have a project, 6-month project, to set up the first tool. That first tool will support the beginnings of annual monitoring for the next 10 years with 5 to 7 indicators that would be set out: housing, transportation. All of these will become a part of that. And we'll provide regular reports to all the decision makers, all the employers, as to what, and actually getting them involved in developing those indicators and questions. So who lives and works in the region? Yeah, we have a general idea, but do we really know and understand the flow? And do we really know and understand who is coming from where and working where? What type of work are they doing? You know, all the different sectors. What are the West Coast job counts? We could get there, measuring West Coast regional labor supply. What are they? What do they look like? Are they transition workers? Are they residential workers? Are they older workers? You know, like that. So the data is really helpful for us to develop an alignment strategies to bring effective, sustainable economic development to the region. and understanding the type of industries. So this is, you know, the primary one, of course, is tourism, but there are secondary and tertiary industries that need attention as well, that help to support the communities of the West Coast. And so our consultations with employers and job seekers will help us to put together a strategy that will align supply and demand. I brought this forward to the attention of the Tofino Task Force Recovery Committee, and I continue to work in this field. I'm the facilitator to the project. As an employee for the Island Work Transitions West Coast Community Employer Program, I'm the community liaison, and that's my task, is to work with community organizations. I'm working with the West Coast Community Resources Society to help build capacity in their organization. And so now we are also working with the West Coast employers. I have a meeting scheduled on November 24th with the District of Tla-o-qui-aht as well, another presentation. It's going to take some time to grasp the importance of this, but I believe that if we start the project in January, it's a 6-month project. You're familiar with the consultant. He's standing in the wings, and with that, the project should be complete by June. We hope to have things up and running by June, so we can get some data, effective data happening, and come up with, before the year's end, to come up with some sort of alignment strategy to take us into the following year. And as we move forward, always keep the broader picture in mind, the 10-year, 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, as well as strategic planning of the District of Tofino, keeping all of this in mind and bringing it forward with community stakeholders. I think I covered everything. I'm not 100% sure. It's difficult to know. I don't see any question marks popping above your heads, so I'd be delighted to field any questions you have. And what I don't know, I'll take as a takeaway and get back to you. So thank you for giving me this time to present this project to you.
Thank you, Ursula. Are there any questions from Council? Councillor Anderson.
Thanks for your presentation, Ursula. Yeah, this is work that certainly the Chamber of Commerce has been sort of calling for quite a while. I guess my question is around the continuing monitoring and updating. You've said that it would be monitored over a 10-year period or something like that, and where will that funding come from, or does this funding that you're requesting now contribute to that?
Thank you, Councillor Anderson, for your question. In response to that, my vision, as I'm working with the group, is that anything that we do, anytime we put into a project, we want to make sure that it lives on. It's not just a one-time in, out, died the next year. We want to continue on. So the Island Work Transitions, Inc. will continue to seek funding to continue the project. The document, the tool, is a document that will be administered by the lead organization, which is Island Work Transitions, Inc., and they will be working with the community stakeholders. This has a huge value for continuity because we're here for the long haul. We work with employers and job seekers, and so it's really important for us to understand the inventory, you know, and the flow of the inventory. And you know, the machine that drives our communities, you know, the economic development perspective. So the ongoing the way I see ongoing procedures is that Island Work continues to support and seek funding from, as we get the first tool developed, like the 6 month, we have that initial tool. Then for ongoing funding, Tla-o-qui-aht Biosphere Trust is another source. We've been working very closely with each organization in the communities to further their vital signs, and I'm working on an older worker program as well. So I can see that right now the 6 month project will feed future investment from stakeholders such as Tla-o-qui-aht Biosphere Trust, such as Vancouver Foundation, such as possibly even Work BC. I'm not 100% sure, but we're right now we have to set up the pilot because this has not been done anywhere. And I worked with the Ucluelet Council and Chamber of Commerce developing the Ucluelet Business Retention and Expansion, Business and Employment Retention and Expansion. It's a long one. That's where we got Uber from. And I understand the Chamber, the Tofino Chamber of Commerce is going towards another BRIE. I've been a part of the BRIE process, and it basically sits on the table. It doesn't really go anywhere. So what we're trying to do is have a living document that continues and to feed and work in connection with the Chamber's initiative, the Tla-o-qui-aht Biosphere Initiative, as well as the Work BC initiatives. Did I answer your question, Al?
Yes, you did. But you raised another one, and maybe some of the listeners might be interested to know, what is BRIE?
Okay, Business Retention and Expansion. This is a program that comes out depending on what the communities, the chambers, all across North America. When I put together the Uber program, I took the best of all models, researched, and created something that I felt would work for Ucluelet. That was to assist Ucluelet Chamber of Commerce to focus on economic development, and it provided them with a job creation project, as well as training and learning for the chamber and its members, and they have completed year one. For everyone's interest, there is on their Ucluelet website, you can go into the Ucluelet Chamber and they'll have a year one report for that, for the results, and they are strategizing towards year two. How that ends up, I'm proposing that this project will feed into their future planning as well.
Does anybody else have any questions? I do have a question for you, Ursula. As far as the funding, I know as the report mentioned that there are some workers that come from Port Alberni, and I know that we're part of the Port Alberni sort of employment region. That's how our employment rate is also registered. Is there any thought of going to the ACRD for a portion of it?
If we're open to that, absolutely. So what we're doing right now, because we're not investigating Port Alberni to that extent, we are investigating only Tofino, Ucluelet, and the region. I understand that the Alberni Tla-o-qui-aht region includes jurisdictions outside of District of Ucluelet, District of Tofino. We are working with them. So one step at a time, we are looking at making a presentation to Ucluelet as well. And at this point in time, on our meeting minutes, we do have the intention to approach the Alberni Tla-o-qui-aht Regional District in the same manner that we are today, to provide them with an overview and answer their questions. And I don't know who is going to be representing the Alberni-Clark Regional District seat from the District of Tofino and the District of Ucluelet. Is there such a thing? So, Tom, are you the one? Pardon me, Councillor Steer, are you the one?
I'm the alternate right now for the ACRD, and Rochelle Cole is the representative from Ucluelet on the ACRD.
Excellent. I do have a working relationship with Rochelle Cole, so I will be in touch with them as well as, you know, making a presentation. And like I say, there's a few months. I will be taking holidays over the Christmas holidays, so won't be back until my birthday, January the 11th. And that's when I hope to see things rolling. But in the meantime, yes, I do see that that this has the potential of setting an example of what can be done and what we can achieve locally, but also have others follow us.
You're on mute, Acting Mayor.
Thanks, I went backwards. I'll ask council to look at the request and your thoughts on a letter of support and the funding. Does anybody want to speak to that? Councillor McQuaid.
Yeah, I'm happy to, and perhaps before I say anything else, I just want to say that I was actually really very excited to see Ursula presenting this at council. I think that quite often this council looks for community partners and champions, and I have seen a call for this type of information come from the now non-existent CDAC committee from Laura Laux. I have seen this talked about in the task force. I have seen this asked for from the Long Beach Chamber of Commerce. And I was on the task force committee that Ursula had previously mentioned, where this was brought up again and again. And the understanding that the gap of understanding that we have in workforce needs, I think this project, it really seeks to inform better decision-making for the business community and our community and for council. And I think it covers a lot of those gaps that we have had, you know, in measurables and metrics that this council has been persistently asking for lately. And I do not know if this is a skill that our staff or capacity, or like the capacity or the skill that our staff or council have. So to have it come up to council from outside in the community, I think is really valuable. And I'm really excited about this. So I'm definitely in support of moving forward and supporting this initiative. I was just hoping maybe I can have staff comment on the appropriateness of the source of funding and understand better the cooperation and coordination that we can expect from the District of Ucluelet. I'm not sure, Ursula, if you can speak to, perhaps after Nyla, about any indications you've got from the District of Ucluelet. While I appreciate gestures to funding there, I am also wary of diluting the information that we get from this particular region. When we look at our vital signs indicators and wage, et cetera, sometimes when we factor in the larger ACRD area, we don't get information that is as pertinent to Tofino and Ucluelet. So I'm wary of moving too far outwards. But yeah, I'd love to hear from staff about the source of funding and allocation, and hear how the rest of council feels about that. Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor McQuaid. I could speak to the balances that are in the special projects reserve if council is considering funding from that source. As of the end of 2019, the audited balances in that reserve, which are specific to certain types of funding that council has allocated in the past, but they are unrestricted amounts, so they can be used for other purposes. So we do have a portion allocated to higher learning, which is just over $11,000, and then a portion allocated to the economic development, which is just over 40,000. A portion of that was allocated to the task force for COVID, which I believe that has wound up, and there wasn't, I think an amount of about 10,000 was allocated, but was not required. So I think that the balances still sit at 11,000 and 40,000.
Thank you, Nala. Did anybody else have any more questions? Ursula first, and Andrea had a follow-up question.
I wanted to respond to Andrea's question or statement regarding, pardon me, Andrea, sitting in my chair, I forget where I am, Councillor McQuaid. Regarding indicators and dilution of information and overlap and so on, that is the thing I'm aware of. That's the thing we've been working against. So working together with everybody at the same table, we're able to bring this data to a higher level and filter through what has been gathered and not duplicated, because duplication is the key thing. In addition to that, I would also encourage that should the District of Tofino decide to participate, also to invite a representative to sit at the advisory level and to continue to ask questions and relay information back and forth and help build what we feel is a better West Coast workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Anderson had a question.
Yeah, my question was for staff again. If council wishes to support this and look at the funding for it, is it necessary to identify the source of funding right now, or would we just refer it to the budget process?
Through the chair, Councillor Anderson, that's a good question. If we referred it to the budget process, we would be looking at discussing this in January, and I'm unsure on the timing and if that is appropriate. If council wishes to fund this today from the Special Projects Reserve, then a resolution specific to the source of funds would be great to have.
And I think Councillor Law, did you have a question?
Not a question. I was just going to offer my support for funding this through the Economic Development Fund councils. I think it's data we need, like everybody's been saying, and all the stakeholders that have expressed their support. It's good timing. I'm just in support.
How does council feel about if we move forward with this? And I'm supportive as well. We have sort of two options: the 9,000, as well as if the District of Tofino is unable to share the cost, the 18,000. Do we want to support the 9,000 and see what Tofino says, and then maybe come back to us? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Councillor Steer, you look like you want to say something. Oh, sorry, Councillor McMaster.
Yeah, I'd be in favour of supporting up to 19,000 and then wait to hear what Tla-o-qui-aht has to say, and then maybe we have to bite the bullet. But I think Tla-o-qui-aht has to pay some portion of this. So let's, I'd support it for $9,000, and then maybe Ursula has to come back to us.
Did you want to make a resolution, Councillor McMaster?
I'll move that $9,000 from the economic fund be devoted to this venture.
Do we need to put the letter of support in the resolution?
And the letter of support be written.
do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson? Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor McQuaid, was that a further discussion or an all in favor? All in favor. Okay, thank you, Ursula.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your meeting, and I will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go back to my, there we go. Okay, so now we've moved on to correspondence. I'm sorry, my agenda's just scrolling on its own. We have 4 items of correspondence regarding, sorry, I'm having technical issues. There we go. So the first item is regarding the correspondence from C. Heebner, the Provincial Director of Child Welfare. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding this letter? No? Okay, and I will move on to correspondence regarding the proposed Tofino Library location at Katie Monk's Memorial Garden. And we have 4 letters. Did anybody have any comments about this? Councillor McQuaid?
Yeah, you know, as always, I want to thank everyone that took the time to write a letter. I think that the more that we have community engagement, the better decisions we make. But I won't lie, I think this is a difficult set of letters to receive. I understand the work that's gone on behind the scenes in attempting to secure a new library for Tofino, but I understand equally as well the public consultation that occurred more than 2 years ago regarding appropriate siting. One or the other of these is not more or less important, and I want to make sure that that's communicated clearly to the community. Preliminary conversations with council about the appropriate nature of the Katie Monk site were couched in the understanding that council has of the changing nature and needs of our community, as well as the changing nature and proposed usage of previously proposed sites for the library. And I think sometimes council is intimately involved in those discussions and may not understand the way it looks outwardly when we pivot to looking at other sites. So I definitely understand the nature and the tenor of the letters that we received about the library. I appreciate input from those letters and I'm grateful. I'm also very mindful of perfect being the enemy of good in this situation. And I'm also worried about no library being the end result. I always want to move thoughtfully and with community on this. So I'm wondering if staff may be able to speak more or council can speak more to proposed community consultation moving forward. Yeah, I just felt an incredible, I felt that the community really responded quickly to this, and I want to make sure that everyone feels like they're being heard here, and how we go about doing that in a thoughtful way that doesn't negate the work that's been done and the possibility of getting a new library for the community. So thank you.
Is there staff that would like to respond to that? It's hard not being able to see your faces. Thank you, Morrison.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, we have not yet launched any consultation module through our website. I know that Ms. Kocher-Bergman has prepared something that I need to review that we want to get out there to continue to get comments. What we were hoping for at this point is just, you know, the top of mind things. Is this a decent location? I want to say I've had correspondence with others. I've had conversations with others, and you know, appreciate where folks are coming from with the comments they've provided. In my mind, looking at this library, it's not, you know, a binary trees for a library or garden or a library. I would hope that we would be able to be involved enough in the planning of the site that the Katie Monk's garden could be reimagined, and if there are trees that are significant and you know, safe also, that we would find a way to manage through that question as well. The driver for this is a location where it could be combined with other things that folks are doing already in town, and the library would become sort of part of a regular stop rather than a destination up at the community hall. The only other thing I do want to comment on is, and Councillor McMaster may have some thoughts on this, but what happens inside of the building is not something that we typically get into. So Ms. Floody's question, although I think a very good question about, like, you know, what's there for, what's in the library for computer access and so on, that's a decision that VIRL makes. We can try and influence that by hopefully, you know, a bigger space would provide more opportunity. And you know, a library I was very familiar with previously, I've shared with others, there was like a device petting zoo where you could sign out different kinds of iPads and things for connectivity. So I hope that those kinds of creative ideas do come into the planning of the library. I'm sure the community will continue to remind us and VIRL of those. That's not the question that we're trying to ask right now, is like, does this site warrant further exploration, or does it not?
Thank you. Were there any other comments? Councillor Steer.
Yes, thank you. My comments around, you know, the public consultation process that was previous to this, and I think maybe where some of the correspondence may be alluding to, that the Katie Monks Park was not one of those sites that had been identified in the past. And so this coming up at this time was somewhat outside of those, what had been discovered in the consultation process previously. And so I think that's part of the equation there. And I think, I don't know, I mean, it may have been framed as trees as opposed to location, but I think there's more to the conversation than just trees and in that situation. I do go back to the CAO's comments around a community living room and how we make those kinds of decisions around facilities such as this. This is an important facility for the community. And I think when you have the input from those letter writers, as important as they are, they also, I looked at who in this case was writing letters, and I was curious because many of them are librarians or retired librarians from this community. And so I think that valuable consultation with those people was very important, and they were very much involved in those initial conversations several years ago in the siting up here. So I do believe that we can continue the conversation, but we should take that previous work that has been done, the comments that have been brought forward, very much in light when we start making these decisions about the location. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe Councillor McMaster was next.
Yes, you know, I've received a lot of letters as well, and I appreciate everybody's input. I think, as I've stressed before, we need to identify a location. Otherwise, we risk the chance of being top of the list to get a new library. We've been having this discussion for at least 10 years while I've been on council, and still no firm resolution. And I'm not going to point a gun to anybody's head, but I'll remind a lot of people that the library is on a month-by-month lease, and that lease may be terminated. You never know. So we need to come to a decision on a location. I myself have concerns about Katie Monks Park. I'd like to see, you know, when I hear how it fits in, I get worried when I hear expressions about squeezing it in. I think one of my concerns is expanding the library for the next generation. But we need a library and we need a location. And I know that then the argument will be, well, how big should it be? We know how big the library board wants it to be, and if it's going to be any bigger or more luxurious, it's going to cost money, and where is that money going to come from? So I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but the main hurdle is to decide on a location. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McMaster. I think it was Councillor Law and then Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the community input into this. I did tour Katie Monks Park and had a look, and I do think that if that site is chosen, although I don't think it's ideal in anybody's mind, that there could be a good chance of saving some of the some of the trees and the park, and maybe even making the park setting a little more usable and better. Now, having said that, I did, I have talked to our CAO about this. I found Eileen Floody's comments about Centennial Park quite compelling. So I kind of want to throw that out there right now that, you know, this is a very preliminary discussion, and as we move forward, there may be other ideas that we can look at, and that to me, maybe not ideal as well, but something I think we should discuss and look at. You know, it might not be Katie Monk's Park or nothing, or Katie Monk's Park or the parking lot. I think there's other ideas, and I do think that we should move forward with this with intention. I do think there is a bit of a time horizon that we do need to capture. So all of those things together, I look forward to further discussion. I think it's healthy. I think it's moving forward, and I enjoy hearing everybody's perspective. I'm sure that we'll come up with a good solution. Might not be the best, as Councillor McQuaid says, but I think it's going to be the best overall.
Thank you. And Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, I appreciate the comments and that people wrote in, and I love to see people excited and concerned about the library. It's been really 20 years or so that the library has been in various temporary and small facilities, including the council chambers at one time. Much of the comments that were made sort of don't really take into account certain driving documents in VIRL's strategic planning and facilities master plan. It's necessary that the library is accessible, is sort of located in a busy, already busy and people kind of centered place. Those are the kinds of locations that it's looking for. The facilities master plan also speaks to the minimum size of a community library. I'm not sure of the current size of the library, but I'm guessing it's probably about half the square footage that a library is suggested to be through that plan. The strategic plan for the libraries also it speaks to a whole number of things, including the type of facility that libraries are becoming now, and the amount of modernization, I guess, for lack of a better word, that they're seeking. The type of facility that a library wants to be is much different than the old library, which was sort of stacks of books. Libraries now host a number of programs outside of reading. They help people learn technology and accessibility through the internet. They teach and supply technology so people can learn coding. There's a self-publishing facility in the Nanaimo branch that is accessible to the entire library membership. And it's the union of approximately 40 municipalities that build this vision and this document, and it's that combined effort that makes it possible for small communities throughout the region and on Haida Gwaii. They benefit from that union of funding and that couldn't be provided in any other way. For instance, if Tofino was to go it alone on their library. So I mean, some of the things that are spoken to in the letters, I think, don't take into account that there are compromises made when 40 communities get together and do a planning document that is expected to be suitable to all those communities. So while we never may get the perfect library that fits every need for Tofino and every desire of Tofino, I think we'll get a facility far beyond what Tofino could supply on its own. So I think some of those documents which are available online might be worth looking into for any council members and also for any members of the public that wish to go to them. And I'm not sure, but Duncan McMaster, being the current VIRL rep, might want to add to some of that conversation on the documents that are sort of driving the type of facility and the location of the facility. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Well said. Sorry, Councillor McMaster?
I'll just echo what Councillor Anderson said. The documents are available on the VIRL website for anybody that wants to look.
Thank you. And I'm just curious, sorry, if Bob, you had any comments about, I guess you and Councillor Law talked about the Centennial Park and the feasibility?
You know, it was probably a 30 or 60-second conversation that Councillor Law and I had. Haven't had a look at it. You know, off the top of my head, it becomes then more of a destination library, where you know, the beauty of the Katie Monk site is its proximity to other things that people are already doing, as well as its proximity to the First Street Dock and the communities that you know, use the First Street Dock as kind of a transit hub. But haven't gone up there and looked at it in any detail. Is it worth looking at? Absolutely. I think that again, that's what we hope for with public consultation. Hey, we've thought of this. What are your thoughts on that? And almost invariably in Tofino, other ideas kind of present, and you know, something might work, something might not work, but getting the community thinking on this is, in my mind, a positive thing. I think others would agree with is we don't want to spend the next 5 years thinking about it. I think that there's an acknowledgement that we have a bit of a window of opportunity here. So we'll see what comes out of, what I would suggest is we would see what comes out of this consultation process. And I would expect that people would, if they have other thoughts of you know, good locations, then we'll hear that and we can explore those. And from there, you know, back to council for hopefully a more fulsome discussion about what works, what doesn't work, and try to advance this.
Thank you. Are there any final comments? Councillor Law?
Yeah, as perhaps a question for our CAO. What kind of timeline are we looking for here? Just so the public knows and I know. Like I do think we have as I said, a time horizon that we have to capture here. So how do you see it going forward, and what do you think the timeline is going to be for public consultation and bringing it back to council?
New ways of doing old ways. I would suspect we'd be coming back to council in you know, early next year. We'll be launching something in the next few days, really. But just given the number of other things that we have to get in front of council before year's end, I think it's unlikely that this matter will be back in front of council until January at the earliest.
Thank you. And if there's no more final comments or questions, we will move on to the next item, which is correspondence from the Tla-o-qui-aht Biosphere Trust regarding UNESCO Periodic Review Letter of Support Request. Do I have any questions or comments? Councillor Steer.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the ability to have an agenda. I haven't figured out the technology without having a second device. But I believe in that correspondence there was a request for a letter of support, and I would say, since I wouldn't be able to read that out, but I would support very much the intentions of the letter that was being asked for.
Does that mean you'd like to make a motion to support the letter, Councillor Steer?
I could, but I don't have any, unfortunately, I wouldn't be as succinct as possibly would be necessary. I don't know if I have a fellow councillor that might have that information in front of them that would like to take that task on.
Councillor Anderson.
I think what we're looking for is that, and I will move, that the District of Tofino confirms its support for the ongoing Tla-o-qui-aht Sound UNESCO Biosphere Region designation.
And seconded by Councillor Steer. Any further comments? And all in favor? Great. And that moves us on to presentations, minutes. So do I have anybody to move the minutes from the Committee of the Whole held on November 2nd, 2020?
Point of order. I think we
Yes.
missed the correspondence item 7.3.
I'm sorry about that, we did. Correspondence from Vancouver Island University regarding public consultation on new draft strategic plans. Thank you, Councillor McMaster. Do I have any comments or questions? Okay. And now we'll move to 8.1. Anybody, could I please have somebody move the minutes?
Move receipt.
Councillor McQuaid, and seconded by Councillor Law. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Great. And the minutes from the Tofino Recreation Commission held on October 21st.
Move receipt.
Councillor McQuaid, and seconded by Councillor Law. Errors or omissions? And all in favor? Great. And then we have business initiated by council member. The first one is, sorry, I keep looking right here, a verbal report from Councillor McQuaid regarding Harm Reduction Committee, Child and Youth Workers Committee, and the West Coast Senior Network.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Chalmers. Yeah, so I have three short kind of reports from these three committees for council. Isn't great here this morning, so if at any point you do lose me, please just wave your arms. I will I'll try and slow down or ameliorate that. So there is an overlap in a few of the areas that I'm going to speak to, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have after the updates. So the first one I have here is the Harm Reduction Committee. There's an ongoing discussion here about the possibility of a sobering and assessment facility here in Tofino. This council is aware and proactive in addressing the use of alcohol in the wider community, and this group continues to hold alcohol use disorder as the primary concern and subject. It has been noted that as we're moving into colder weather, substance use workers and counselors have cautioned that people who use drugs and alcohol are being pushed indoors. With COVID complications are now moving into the dangerous situation of using both alone. Moving indoors means possible recreation and support. Did I lose you?
A little bit. You came back quickly though.
Sorry. So moving indoors means breaking with social connections and possible recreation and support groups. This is further complicated by the increase in drug poisoning happening on this coast, which all members actually felt was not being currently adequately addressed by appropriate agencies. So at core, this is a discussion that echoes the conversation that this council had with the Minister of Mental Health and Substance Use about the lack of supportive resources on the West Coast and the downloading of those responsibilities into acute care beds. Councillor Steer often refers me to better upstream solutions than downstream band-aids, and I'm mindful that continuing this pressure and support can only serve to address both. In regards to the Child and Youth Worker Committee, youth workers highlighted here again the need for youth housing in general and transition housing in particular. This is something that I've been hearing, and we as a committee have been hearing nationwide and now seeing reflected in Tofino, that those youth who are not safe at home or in unhealthy environments that are not deemed legally abusive or unsafe have no safe place to be. This is particularly concerning in our area for 2S LGBTQIA youth who may not have supportive homes. Many youth, it's reported, are still feeling particularly isolated, and in large part it's been pointed to that both districts are experiencing the challenges of a lack of recreation and programming. This was highlighted again in the ongoing struggles to have a cohesive and consistent community for every youth to connect to, but in particular, again, for 2S LGBTQIA youth. And then for the West Coast Senior Services Network, I wish Ursula was still on the call. She does a lot of the heavy lifting here as well. This network spoke largely to granting and the pursuit of the Better at Home grant and ongoing research in support of needs assessments and gaps. Two community members, Janine Croxall and Jeanette Sheehy, are both working in support with the Pacific Rim Hospice Society to create and distribute a needs assessment survey to those 55 and over in the wider community. This needs assessment is going to address transportation, food access, hot food delivery, non-medical health support, and visitation. They're also seeking support from various agencies in their application for the Better at Home grant that seeks to understand and realize goals of keeping seniors in their home and community as they age, something that this council has also voiced support for. So I'm happy to take any questions about the three of them, or if there's any intuition about areas in which council might offer support. Thanks.
Are there any questions for Councillor McQuaid? Nope. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Steer and then Councillor Law.
Not so much a question other than thank you very much, Councillor McQuaid, for those updates. It is critically important for us to have these updates to understand some of the issues that may not always come forward in our day-to-day lives in Tofino. So very much appreciated. And the understanding, as we've talked about, those upstream causes, I also do very much recognize the need for those band-aids at times until those solutions can be brought forward. So I do appreciate that work, and thank you very much.
And Councillor Law.
I'm just going to echo that, Tom's comments there, or sorry, Councillor Steer's comments.
I'm unsure if this is the appropriate time, but I just want to remind council in particular to housing and the child and youth workers' concerns about transition housing, that we both have an ongoing strategic plan, and the Tofino Housing Corporation also takes direction and suggestion from council regarding their plans. So this is something that we may want to speak to, perhaps not as an immediate solution, but in the coming years, that we may look at what transition and supportive housing looks like as a district supported or encouraged facilities. So just a reminder there, we do have mechanisms by which we can offer support, and I'm sure any of these committees would be glad to have us speak to them in any type of plan.
Councillor Steer.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor McQuaid. It also brought up, and it was interesting, thanks for bringing that possibility that we have mechanisms within there, because just the other day having a conversation about some of the long-term care needs that Tofino General Hospital actually addresses. We have many patients in there right now that are waiting for long-term. It's actually somewhat operating as a long-term care facility. And the question had posed if the something like the Tofino Housing Corporation as one of the things that maybe, and I did not know the answer to that, if that is a mechanism that may be able to address or at least have a conversation about those types of issues and needs that are within our community. So thank you for that, and it has me thinking now.
Thank you for that, Councillor Steer. You know, that is also being addressed by the West Coast Senior Services Network and the work that Janine and Jeanette are both doing in support of Pacific Rim Hospice Society, and the application for the Better at Home grant. The you know, the realization that if we do not have those extended services or those acute or those long-term care facilities, that the next best thing is recognizing that we should be keeping and supporting seniors staying at home for as long as possible. So if council would like information about that, I'm more than happy to speak to anyone individually later about what we can do to support that.
Thank you, Councillor McQuaid. That's great to know. And then we'll move on to, I have a verbal report, a brief one regarding the Tourism Tofino board meeting. It was from a couple of weeks ago, so a few things are a little outdated, but the Chamber gave an update to Tourism Tofino, and the key issues that arose from their community survey were the mental health and advocacy for staff within employment for employers, emergency services, the Tribal Park Alliance, and staffing issues that employers have faced. So that actually is quite relevant in today's meeting. Also discussions of destination management versus marketing destination. Some conversation came up about bylaw resources. A lot of the issues that were arisen this year, fireworks was a really big conversation. This was just before Halloween. And a lot of conversation how there could be help in funding, ideas to help funding bylaw, and if there's any way that Tourism Tofino can work with the district. This is still the Chamber, my mistake. And the ambassador program, and how much more far-reaching it has been by being able to deliver it in video format. So that's a great bonus for the community. At the time, they were working on Jingle into Christmas and sort of the plan for the 12 days, and I know that that has since been rolled out. So looking at how they can improve the COVID procedures and extend Jingle into Christmas for us all. And then with Tourism Tofino, we talked about the upcoming Tourism Tofino and Council meetings that we're all going to have, which I'm really looking forward to. And so I'll remind Council of the three sort of key items to have and to think about before we go into those meetings, which are the expectations of the district, of Council for Tourism Tofino, the 2020 challenges and planning for 2021. And addressing the over-tourism perceptions and views and discussing that. So just a reminder that we're all going to be talking about that shortly. And discussions on the district and Tourism Tofino being on the same page. And I know with the recent health orders, there's been great conversations between the Chamber, the district, and Tourism Tofino. So to continue those sort of combined efforts. As well, Tourism Tofino is looking into becoming their sole eligible entity status and what that could potentially mean. I think it's just discussion at the moment, but it'd be an interesting conversation. And the last was again about fireworks being out of control. So those were the key topics from the meeting. Are there any questions? Oh, Councillor Law.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just a point of clarity. I think just for my notes here, it was the Chamber of Commerce that was discussing possible ways of supporting bylaw. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you. And it was more conversational. I got that mixed up. That was still the Chamber update to Tourism Tofino. Now I'm updating the whole thing. So. Okay, and if there's no more questions, there's no unfinished business. Oh, Councillor Anderson.
Just as part of the verbal reports from Council, a really quick one that I attended, the resilience conversation on Friday with other communities from Vancouver Island Coastal Communities region. It was an all-day session, and we broke out into 10 working groups and put together a whole bunch of ideas about resiliency and sustainability and reducing the carbon footprint, working together throughout the region. So the results of that will be compiled and made available sometime it looks like January, I believe, at this point. So look forward to seeing the results of that.
Great, thank you, Councillor Anderson. And Councillor McQuaid, did you have a question? Oh, you're frozen.
Actually, I have just a brief question about fireworks. I think, am I unfrozen now?
Yeah, you're good.
I did have a little question about fireworks. I know that this has been addressed by a few community members lately, and questions about reaching out to the Tla-o-qui-aht Nation and the surrounding businesses that sell fireworks prior to, like, as the last stop to Tofino. And I'm wondering if Tourism Tofino has ever done that.
That conversation did come up, and I think that they felt that that wasn't their role, that may be better suited coming from a different source, but it's something that maybe we could talk about.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, and then do we have any questions? I did see something written, Elise, was that, do I address that?
There are no questions in the Q&A. There was a
Okay.
question to staff that I'll follow up with the writer via email.
Okay, thank you. Is anybody able to, sorry, would a council like to move the recommendation to move into a closed meeting? I have it in front of me if nobody else does. Councillor?
Sure. Recommend that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91 A, C, E, and K of the Community Charter to discuss matters relating to personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality, labor relations or other employee relations, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, and discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages.
Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Anderson. All in favor? Okay. Yes, Councillor?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Can we have a quick 2-minute break? Is that okay?